Dougie, we've worked together or in the same industry for about 8 years. I thought you'd be a great guest to have on, someone who's sort of climbed the ladder in build to rent, but also someone who can explain build to rent a little bit as well.
Right.
So I think it'd be good for everyone listening. Just give us a bit of your background. You had a bit of an interesting start to your career and changed a couple of times. So give us a bit of background on where you've come from in your career.
Will do. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I feel very, very privileged and honoured to be. I think it's third.
Third, yeah.
Yeah. Big number 3.
Yeah.
So my career. So I started off, left school at 16, which feels like a lifetime ago, which is what it is ago.
Yeah.
So left school at 16, didn't do A-levels, but I was training to be a footballer. So as you do when you're a young kid, you sort of get sold the dream. You think that's all you can see, tunnel vision. I'm going to be a footballer, so I don't really have to study too hard. Did what I needed to do to get the GCSEs that I needed to sort of pass all of the main subjects, and then was luckily awarded a scholarship with Chesterfield, who were better than they are now at that point.
Right.
So they were in League One, so they were third tier, but still a professional club.
Yeah.
So I was actually offered a sponsorship, a sponsored place in their YTS scheme. So that meant me leaving school, 16 years old, moving away from home, living in digs.
Right.
Doing all the stuff that you would have read and heard about as a YTS, so cleaning boots, cleaning the changing rooms, getting paid like 20 quid a week or whatever it was, all with the vision of being a footballer at the end of it. So that was what I did for 2 years. Learned a lot, I guess. Just it forced me to grow up quite quickly.
Yeah.
And came to the end of the scholarship, like 90% of the other people that go through this scheme, and didn't make it professional. The generic feedback of wasn't strong enough or big enough. In hindsight, I just wasn't good enough. So that's fine.
Were they preparing you for that? Did you know, or did you still have sort of the dream that you were going to make it?
I think you kind of get a feeling because you go through games and you're selected for the reserves, or you're in either under 19s or under 17s, and you get a bit of a feel for which squad that you're selected in as to whether you're going to progress or not. I think the reality is at that age and at that time, because we're talking about, well, it's over 20 years ago now, and we were just talking about this before when I met up with you about football in general, the way the game's changed so dramatically. I think I'd be better now.
Yeah,
I think if I did that again now, I'd be better positioned, because at that point it was all about strength.
Yeah.
So if you were big enough, you were good enough.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you just had to be strong enough to hold the ball up. And my game was all about being fast on the wings.
Yeah.
So and it wasn't about strength really.
Yeah.
So it was difficult for me to get into that at that point. And at the time, when you're 17, I wasn't fully developed then. Still really scrawny.
Yeah.
So didn't make it pro, but then went into semi-pro. So still actually got paid a decent amount of money to play semi-professional, which meant I didn't go back to college. I didn't go and do further learning, and got a job in retail as a retail manager in a clothes shop, an independent clothes shop in Leicester, where I'm from. And before that, I'd worked, actually I missed a part out, before I did the football, I actually worked on a market stall when I was 15. Loved it. It's my favourite job still.
Really?
Yeah. I got up at 3:00 every Saturday morning, went and we actually had to build the stall in Nuneaton. So it was the market stalls where they're in the streets. The actual big market. It was just high street, if you will, and then loads of little market stalls sold the stereotypical fruit and veg. I learned so much from that.
I was going to say
so much. I have so much to thank that for today. I really do, and I'm sure we'll probably come on to that.
What do you think you learned on the market stall?
Hard work, grafting, like literally 3:00 in the morning till 6-7 o'clock in the evening. I thought I was a baller then, I was getting like 50 quid a day cash, and that was a lot of money. 20 years ago. So I could buy things, and that was great. And yeah, not only that, it was a team of people. We had to go up and get all the fruit and veg before we arrived. We had to drive to the wholesalers in the van, load it all up, load it off, build the stall. It was freezing cold in the winter. It was pissing it down sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, hard work, dedication, commitment, teamwork, and then confidence as well. I used to have to stand in the middle of a street with bowls of fruit in my hand trying to sell it, and it's character building.
Yeah.
So I do. I thank that job for a lot of soft skills, specifically. But then that coupled with playing football, and you're in a team, and it's all the same stuff. You've all got a shared vision, shared goal. You either on the market stall, you're trying to make as much money as you can and have fun whilst you're doing it. In football, you're trying to win as many games as you can and have fun whilst you're doing it. Same things. So you got both of those jobs. Character building taught me lots of different things, and the sort of camaraderie of being in a team. Yeah, and from a values perspective, what's important. So yeah, loved both of those things. Did those, went into retail, again, sort of. I was probably 18, 19 years old, earning money from football, earning money from a retail job. At that point in time, that felt like loads of money, way more than any of my mates, because they were all at uni. Yeah. And, that I was just like, not looking down at them, of course, but thinking, I can afford to buy a car, I can afford to buy new clothes. I was going out 3 nights a week. Yeah. Felt great. Private number plate. It's still embarrassing looking back. Yeah.
No, I mean, I was on the other side, so I went to uni, and a lot of my mates had jobs, and I remember there's a couple of us who went to uni, and we were skint, and we were like, oh, they're loaded, like they've got so much money, and so I was on the opposite end of that, being very jealous.
That's great, and maybe there'll be people listening to this that resonate here. Because I went through all of those years where my mates were doing their uni courses, getting their degrees, and then when they came out the other side, say fast forward 5 years later, I'm still a retail manager. They're coming out getting these big jobs. Some of them are accountants and work in finance, and in banking, whatever it may be. And I'm still a retail manager, and I keep emphasising that because I felt that I got to a point 10 years later and I was still a retail manager. Yeah. And it does feel that retail is one of those industries where there is a glass ceiling. There's loads of people out there. There's really good people in retail that are amazing operators, very similar situations to me, hard workers, used to grafting, putting the hours in, but haven't been academically educated for whatever reason, and feel that there's, it's difficult to know where to go.
And do you think that's a lack of opportunity in retail, or is that kind of just a kind of box they find themselves in? Or
I think it's probably a little bit of retail by nature. It's a huge sector. Retail is a huge sector, and it needs, or has done until the recent sort of AI revolution. And technology, it's always needed lots of people, lots of resource, and it fills lots of gaps. There's lots of students working in retail. People that want to work part-time hours, that are maybe single parents or whatever. Like, it just fills gaps, and it's great for that. But as a full-time job, it feels, and it felt to me, that it was very difficult to understand. Okay, there's only so many skills that you can learn, because in retail you're generally not managing the building that you're operating in. You're just on a sort of lease agreement, so you're managing in my case a store, but a lot of the work streams were done centrally, so a lot of things were managed centrally, so you didn't get much exposure to running a business. You had your numbers and you had your targets. As long as you could deliver on that, it was difficult then to learn new skills, because you got to a certain point you knew how to do it. So I think there's only so many regional manager roles or director or head of positions in retail. That versus the amount of people that work in the sector.
Competition's high.
Competition's really high. So and salaries are low. Broadly speaking, retail salaries are pretty low. I imagine it's similar to hospitality. And yeah, going back to my career, I've got to about 30 years old, I think it was. Yeah, nearly 10 years ago now. And I really was miserable in retail. Just really, really wanted to do more. Felt that I'd started to question everything. I'd made the wrong choices. I should have stayed on at school. I should have learned something. I felt like I had no skill. I had no skill in anything because my football career probably stopped when I was 21.
Yeah.
And that was quite early, but I had a knee injury. It just niggled away at me and I couldn't get it right. So I ended up falling out of that and becoming a retail manager. I had to work Saturdays. Football just took a back seat.
Yeah.
I started playing Sunday League and five-a-side, but then it wasn't bringing in income.
Yeah.
So then I was, again, like stuck in this position, didn't have what I would class as a skill. I was considering all sorts. I was considering learning a trade.
Yeah.
I was looking at all different avenues. And really, luckily, found it was student accommodation at the time, PBSA.
Yeah.
So purpose-built student accommodation. There's a lot of transferable skills with retail and PBSA. And at that point, there was one of my colleagues at Topshop, Topman, which is where I ended my retail career.
Yeah.
They were moving to a student provider and put my name forward for a position. And it just opened up a new world of opportunity because the moment I walked into one of those buildings, I was just like blown away. Wow, what is this? It was not student accommodation how I would.
Yeah.
Well, my mates certainly did live in anything like that.
Yeah.
So they were in these sort of traditional HMOs.
Yeah.
It was like really scruffy. And these were like 5-star hotels.
Yeah.
Cinema rooms, gyms, libraries, all that sort of stuff. And I just loved it because I've always been so passionate about giving a good service and giving a good experience.
And when you saw that, did you kind of reevaluate the skills that you thought you had at that time? Did that make you realise that you had learned a load of skills that were helpful in other areas?
I don't think it was at that moment. It only became apparent when I started working in property that I realised actually there is a lot of similarity here.
Yeah.
We're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
We're a business, we're a commercial business at the end of the day. It's just a different revenue stream. So you're not managing transactions necessarily. It's long-term renting. So it is transactional in a way, but it's a lot longer term, so it's completely different. But then you layer up the building management responsibilities and all the health and safety and the compliance. That gave me that bit of that learning opportunity that I wanted, like where I felt I can actually do some qualifications here, something that's recognised and credible. Because again, I really don't want to disparage anybody that works in retail because I've been there, I've been through it myself. But it felt to me, I just kept saying to myself, like, how important is selling a T-shirt? I'm not making a difference. I'm not making a big enough difference. And that's what I struggled with. Yeah. And I had some great times in retail. And it did feel good on certain days. You had your targets to it and your KPIs and you could hit them. But that wasn't enough for me. Yeah. I wanted to know that I was making a difference in, I suppose, in more society. Yeah, yeah. So actually having that added layer of managing buildings, so managing the safety of buildings, providing a home for someone to live in, as well as an experience. Yeah. I felt like
give you a bit of purpose.
It was a light bulb moment. Yeah, definitely purpose. Yeah, exactly.
That's what you thought you lacked maybe in retail. Yeah, is that purpose?
Exactly. And I've never looked back. So then I only spent 2 years in PBSA, largely because an opportunity came up in a build-to-rent scheme in Manchester. Again, hadn't heard of build-to-rent, didn't have a clue what it was. I'm sure there's people out there that still don't know what it is. But it was very much sold to me as, it's a bit like PBSA and it's a bit like a hotel, but it's not students generally. It's young people that want to rent in city centres with fully managed buildings with services and amenities, etc. So you can do all the same stuff, but not students.
And is that, so just explaining a little bit more about build to rent, is that different to normal rental? Like, explain a bit like how it works, who owns the buildings, that type of stuff.
Yeah, I'll try and explain it in its easiest form, I guess. And the simplest definition is that build to rent is purpose-built housing that is owned by one landlord. So rather than where traditional PRS could be a huge block of flats that are individually sold, so unitized, and they are then owned by individual landlords, but then managed by block management companies. They're then leased potentially by an agent, estate agent. So it's all pepper potted, it's all over.
Yeah.
So they might look and feel like build to rent does, but behind the scenes in build to rent, there's one owner and one landlord, which is typically it's institutional, so it's largely pension funds, private equity, insurance companies, etc.
Yeah.
Some of the smaller build-to-rent stock could be family offices. I suppose it could be an individual owner if it wanted to be, but largely it's institutional capital. And build-to-rent, not to complicate it further, but it can be split into two. So it could be multifamily, which is generally high-rise blocks or low-rise blocks, but generally apartment buildings, and single family, which is single dwellings, so housing. So if you think about a housing estate, i.e., I think there's other brands out there, but David Wilson housing estate, a new build, you would probably drive past one all the time. That could be built to rent, because that whole housing estate could be owned by one investor. They own all the houses, and there's lots of advantages to that. But it gives you all, it allows either the owner or the managing agent or operator the ability to enhance service levels because they're in control of everything.
Just on service and like build to rent, big thing for me, like having worked in build to rent, it's really strong on community. But I've always thought like there's two types of community. There's the community in the building, which a lot of them are focused on, but it's also their impact on like the wider community where the building is. Yeah. So just explain to us a little bit like why build to rent focuses so much on community in the building first, and where that sort of unique selling point to other traditional rentals is.
Yeah. So some of this will link to the demographics of the type of people that live in build to rent. So historically, we've always said that in build to rent, your target market would be sort of 25 to 34-year-old working professionals. They're often people that have not lived in the city before. They're relocating. They're moving from the sort of suburbs into the city centre. And I've been that person, by the way. I moved up to Manchester from Leicester about 14 years ago, and didn't know anyone. Moved into as you say, a traditional block of flats, individually owned. There was nothing. There was no services. There was no amenity. There was no events, all that kind of thing. So what we try to do in build to rent is do all of those things that I've just said there. We try and foster community, foster collaboration, and the sense of belonging. So and as a build to rent operator, we can control that. We can provide events for all the residents that live within in the building. We can provide the technology that allows them to connect with each other. And we can have teams that are based on site that can actually physically create that community by speaking to people every single day, whether it be in the morning, in the evening, when they get back from work. We control and manage all of the maintenance requests that come through. And again, that's where we differ, because it can be, it's not always bad in PRS, but it can be really difficult. If you've lived in rented accommodation that isn't built to rent, it's luck of the draw, really, depending on who the owner is, depending on who the managing agent is, as to what service level you're going to get. Some are better than others, but we can provide a higher end of service, as I say. So community is, I say this, and I've talked about this quite a bit, but community within build to rent is, up until this point, been talked about a lot as a sort of inside the four walls community. So you build a multifamily block, city centre location, so urban build to rent, and you talk about community. You have an engagement strategy, a community strategy, and it's typically always been designed from when build to rent first appeared, it was designed to be in the building. The residents that lived there, it's going to benefit the people that live within that building. But as time's progressed and especially as the ESG movement has grown legs, then we now focus a lot more on the social impact side of things. And what we're finding now is people do like to feel that they live in a wider community. It's not just about the four walls.
Yeah.
It's, okay, what's in the local perimeter? So and that could be as wide or as small as you want it, that net. But what impact are we having on the local community? What businesses do we work with? What local independent stores do we work with? You know, do we order our coffee beans from the local coffee shop, or do we just buy them nationally?
Yeah.
Typically in build to rent, we try and do the former. And that's a good example there of what we can do. But we also work with local councils, local charities. There's certain planning requirements now that the council will bring in to help the local area. So build to rent impacts not just the residents that live there, but it helps to grow communities on a broader scale.
Do you think they get a bad rap, like build to rent industry, for not doing that because people don't know they do that? Or
I think so, because I think if you're looking from the outside in here and you don't know much about build to rent, and you don't know about all the great work that we as operators, owners, investors all do, you're probably looking at the buildings going, oh, there's another one of those fancy block of flats that no one can afford to live in. So that's not helping the housing crisis, is it? And what are they doing for the local community? Because all we've got is, we've still got all the homelessness, we've still got all the antisocial behaviour. How are they helping? Well, we are. It's maybe not directly. Yes, you know, there's all different levels to the spec and the service level of in build to rent. There's, like anything, you get high end and lower end, and then you've got mid market. Typically, build to rent is around the mid market category in terms of rental prices, and it would be for a lot of people unaffordable. There's no getting away from that. So it provides a higher, it provides a higher service level, but it comes with a higher price.
yeah,
like anything does. But ultimately, we're still building more homes, which is what the government needs us to do. So the government set out the target of 1.5 million homes within their tenure, and we can't achieve that without build to rent. So yes, there is higher spec apartments out there that are unaffordable for certain people in society, but it's still providing more homes, so it should free up stock somewhere. If people are relocated and moving in to these types of apartments. But also it's the indirect stuff, so the charity work that we do, the social initiatives, providing green spaces and public realms, which a lot of these build to rent places do. We also have a requirement to provide discounted market rent or affordable housing. So it is regulated, and there is more that each community, and everyone's doing something slightly different, but it's becoming more normal now to have more local community incentives and initiatives and events rather than just inside the building.
And just going into a little bit your career,
Didn't finish actually.
No,
we're
just going to
still not actually answering the first question.
So you'd come into build to rent.
Yeah.
And what position? Tell us a little bit about the position that you held, and more like how you've got to where you are now. Like, I think that's the
right. So let me just finish your very first question really, really quickly. So really, market stall, footballer, retail, all the way up till I was 10 years later, went into PBSA, student accommodation, then got my first manager job in build to rent, which is a general manager position for one of the first build to rent sites in Manchester, and then I've been in build to rent ever since. So the last 9 years of my career, I've been cutting my teeth, if you will, in build to rent specifically.
Yeah.
So got a general manager position, and I was so happy to get that position, because for all the reasons I mentioned earlier, it gave me everything I wanted and more. And I really, I was excited in PBSA, but there's something that wasn't quite right with I think it was just, I guess the expectation in PBSA is different.
Yeah.
And I felt that I wanted to provide something a little bit more mature. I think that's what it was. So general manager in build to rent felt like at that time I've got a mature job. That's what it felt like.
A proper job.
I actually felt quite, because I think I got to the point where I was like, I felt a bit embarrassed to keep saying to people I work in retail. I don't know if that was right or wrong.
Like I think was that your perception? Like, I've got a proper job now. Was that was what it was?
It's like my life begins. I can actually like go to the pub with my mates and actually talk about my job and feel proud.
I think that's a lot. Well, like a lot of people feel that. I know I did before I had hybrid. Like the first real job I had was probably 5 years before. But up until that point, I thought it was like cheating at life type of thing. I was just dossing about and not having a proper job, and then couldn't have a conversation about like. And also felt embarrassed to be passionate about something that was work, because like who cares if you work? Like I've worked in retail as well. Like it's just it felt like it wasn't. I didn't have a proper purpose then. Yeah,
but I must clarify now. Like in hindsight, all that was rubbish.
Yeah,
because actually, I could have stayed in retail and I could have a really successful career at it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because if you're really passionate about it, that's the key.
I think that's the thing, is finding your purpose. Yes. Like I know people in retail now who are directors of massive companies, and that was their purpose. I think it's about aligning to a business that you are passionate about, and so that just on that point. Were you passionate about build to rent as soon as you came in, or did that develop? You were.
I was, because I felt like there's a few common threads here, and I feel like we keep going back to purpose. Yeah, and it's quite big for me. Purpose is so important, and having a sort of an overarching mission in life. And mine, I think, is to influence and impact things positively. I need to be having an influence on something, and I felt like, because build to rent was so nascent back then, and it's still relatively nascent now, it's up and coming, it felt like I was doing something good for society and providing a good service at the same time. It ticked all those boxes. Yeah. So I was like, this is amazing, because it's new. Yeah. No one really knows what's good and bad. So I don't mind saying myself, like I did excel. Like I did so well so quickly. And we won all of the Home Views Awards. You know, the Trilogy in Manchester was the first building that I managed. And it just came so naturally. And the people that, I'm looking back now, the people that I was working with, a number of them had come from property. Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily as natural to them. They taught me all the stuff that I needed to know about leasing and legislation and building safety. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without all of those people. So it was great. But the service element,
that was your like USP.
It was my thing, yeah. So I was like, this is easy. I don't even need a budget, because people, you need all these thousands of pounds to produce this engagement strategy. And I thought, you know what? No, you don't, because
it's the market stalls again.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get people talking. Yeah, literally, let's get out there. We provide a few bottles of wine or whatever on a Friday night, and we get all the residents down there, and we just all have a chat. And that's literally how we started our engagement strategy. Yeah. And that doesn't work forever, because people will get bored. Yeah. But it was sort of proof to the people around me that this doesn't have to be difficult. Yeah. Let's not over-engineer this. Yeah. People want community. They're moving here because they don't necessarily know anybody. And it just felt really exciting. So at that point, I just wanted to throw myself into everything I could that was related to the industry.
So let's talk that then, because I think having like worked alongside you for the best part of 8 years, I think the one thing that stood out to me is that you literally put your hand up. You'll do anything. You're currently the chair of the Northwest Hub for ARL, which is the body of build to rent operators. Networking events, panel events. How important is doing those things been to your career, do you think?
Really important. Some of it's probably not as true as I think, but I just saw myself as a newcomer, inexperienced, had to try and prove myself. And because integrity is so important to me, I had to sort of know what I was talking about. I don't like talking about things that I don't know enough about. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And in hindsight, looking back now, I have been in lots of those situations. I've been in, but on the flip side, and contrary to what I've just said, is I also think it's important to push yourself, stretch yourself outside of your comfort zone. Yeah. So I have done that on occasion. I did throw myself into what was the UKAA and now the ARL initiatives with them, just because I felt that I needed to raise my personal brand, because that's quite important. So I did offer my services to get involved with as many different committees that I could. I did my property qualification, which was the IRPM level 4 build to rent qualification, which is now MTPI. So that's a recognised accredited qualification in the sector. Learned a lot doing that whilst I was a general manager. And also had great people that I was working with and helping me to learn different parts of property that I would never have been exposed to previously. And yeah, I just think it's really important to do all the things that it might feel uncomfortable at times. It might not feel natural. I know people raise their eyebrows or turn their nose up at networking events. It's not natural for most people. Most people find it uncomfortable, and people said to me, "Oh, you do that really well, and you're just a natural at that." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it ruins my social battery. Like I'm absolutely knackered after it's way more tiring for me to go to a networking event than it is just doing a day in the office or a day on spreadsheets or whatever day it might be. I find that the most tiring. And you could look at that and go, "Yeah, but you're just chatting all day. You must be living." No, I'm not. No, not at all.
It's demanding. It's demanding, like doing that well.
Yeah, and I think most people feel the same, even though they might not look like they do.
Yeah,
and they can maybe articulate themselves in a different way that makes them sound really intelligent, which they probably are really intelligent. But for someone like me, I find that intimidating. So my answer to that is, well, I need to go and learn it then, because I don't like not knowing.
Yeah.
So I'm having conversations with people all the time, and I would say 95% of the conversations I have with people in the sector now, they might say one thing that I was like, I don't know what that is. And I pretend that I do.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, yeah, no, I know what you mean. And then I'll be like,
what is it?
Googling. I'm literally Googling words sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't mind admitting that.
Yeah.
I'm very transparent. Most days I'll Google a word.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I had that gap when I left school at 16, and I didn't even concentrate on English anyway. And I was always playing football, so I wasn't reading books.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've spent the last 20 years making up for that, and I'm still doing it now.
Do you feel that is prohibited you in any way, or do you feel that's driven you, do you think?
No, I don't think it has. I don't think it's prohibited me at all. I think it's just given me the fire more than anything. And I think it's as you get older and wiser as well, you start to see things differently and you start to cut through the bullshit.
Yeah.
And you're like, he's just talking a good game, or, he just sounds intelligent. And, there are intelligent people out there who I look up to still to this day, and I can learn from a lot. There are equally lots of people out there that are very good at talking.
Yeah.
And have sometimes not the kind of evidence to substantiate what they're saying.
Yeah, there's no substance behind it.
No, it's not. Sometimes.
And do you think that in sort of in property as well, like, is that feels sometimes to me as an outsider that you've got like a certain type of property guy?
Yeah.
And how do what's the relationship there? Do you think that's right, or do you think that you're not that guy and you offer something different?
I'm definitely not that guy.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not that guy. I think we haven't really touched on this, but I think there is a difference between property and build-to-rent operators.
Yeah.
We are within the property sphere as a build-to-rent operator, but we also have lots of synergy with hospitality and retail as well. So I think we've got an interesting place to play, an interesting part to play, and an interesting position in the space, because we can be both.
Yeah.
So you have to be a bit of a chameleon.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I have to go into, and I have been into jobs where I've gone, I'm going to have to buy
Get your gilet out.
Yeah, I'm going to have to, because otherwise I'll look weird.
Yeah.
And then I've worked in other places where you can wear shorts and t-shirts, and everyone's got tattoos and piercings, and every organisation's really different. But you just need to go to one of the property networking conferences. Just go and see the type of person that's there, and it's still like so. Yeah, it's so heavily weighted towards one type of person, and to try and be politically correct.
Yeah, but why? what can you do as an operator to change that? What's the answer to that to make it more diverse?
I personally have this vision and this aim, aspiration, whatever you want to call it, to just bring more great people into property management specifically, but not just property management, more property roles. Like, property is such a huge part of society, and it's like other things as well, business and the line of work that you guys work in as well. Like, what do we teach in schools, and how are we actually exposing kids to what is out there? What are the opportunities out there? Because nobody talks about property in school, really. If you go and do a bricklaying course, I'm talking when I was there. That was like the easy route. You need to do that because you're thick, basically, and that's just generally speaking. That's how it was perceived back in the day. When actually it's got such a huge part to play in society. There's lots of great opportunities out there, but we're too fixated with the curriculum that's currently standing now in the core subjects, and everyone needs to be a lawyer or a solicitor. I don't need any more of those.
No, I think when I was at uni, when I was at school, it was you need to pass your GCSEs or you need to pass your A-levels to get to uni, and I think I'm probably the best case. If I went to uni and it was bullshit, the course was bullshit, it cost me 40 grand to do it, and
paid it off yet.
And it was just because it was a business. Uni's a business, and it was a marketing degree that they didn't have the right tutors. They didn't learn anything. I didn't learn anything, and it was just all bullshit. And had I been pushed into a vocation, I think I would have done better sooner. I mean, I don't regret it because it was a great time in my life, going out and meeting new people, meeting from people from different backgrounds. But I think that education it's a very finite amount of people who can go into educational or go into degrees and do proper degrees as opposed to ones that are made up like I did.
And I don't want to. I don't want to sit here and slag off people that want to go into. And I think it's got a massively important part to play. Education is very, very important, but I also think that it's important to start speaking more honestly and openly. And if I offend some people, then I don't mean to, but it's important to be provocative sometimes, because otherwise we'll just keep going on as normal. We've got to do things differently. So back to your original question then, as a build-to-rent operator, we've got a huge opportunity because we can break the mold. We can do things differently. I'm already seeing people, I think there's a bit of there's the property sector, and rightly so, it can be quite risk averse. There's lots of legislation, there's the Building Safety Act there's financial regulation, there's all these different things that we have to think about. So naturally, you look at experience and go, we'll feel more comfortable. But on the flip side, we also have a massive opportunity to bring brilliant people into the sector, train them up, upskill them, and then, because there isn't enough people out there with experience now. There isn't. It's the same people rotating around. So we've got to do something differently. So that's what I think our part to play is here. And hopefully, I know there's lots of work being done at the moment to refresh and make the the membership bodies more relevant, more current, more built-to-rent focused. So there's more access and more routes in for people that don't know the space. But we can really, I think we can really help.
And what when you do bring those new brilliant people in, like what do you feel you're different to most people in that industry about, like whether it's work ethic, whether it's trying to create a culture that you're passionate about, or doing the extracurricular stuff? Like, what do you think people can learn from what you've done? Because I think you're a pretty good example of working your ass off, but in not necessarily hard, but like just different stuff, like diversifying what you do. You talk about personal brand. I don't think there'd be many people in that industry who would even know what it means, let alone like work at it.
Yeah. It all comes down to hard work, and it all comes down to commitment. At the end of the day, if you want something, you'll do it. I wanted to be successful and still want to be successful. That's really important to me. So if you kind of need to have a vision. Like, you need to understand what it is that you're trying to aim for and why you're trying to do it. And if you really want something, then work out how you can get there. Usually that's by surrounding yourself with good people and having mentors. And I'm a big fan of mentorship and coaches and personal development.
Talk to me about that, mentors, because I've heard that so much, and I've never had a mentor. I don't even know what a mentor is. But
you probably have had a mentor, you just don't know it.
No, I've had the people who've helped, but like I think in business, like people talk about, you need to get yourself a mentor. It seems like this formal agreement that takes place, but explain to me like.
Well, I think that's the problem. I think actually that's probably a big part of it, because people think it needs to be a formalised agreement. It doesn't need to be that at all. It could be a mate. It could be best mate that could mentor you through a certain situation. It could be someone that's really senior within your sector. Or it could be someone in your organisation that's more senior to you. Or it doesn't even have to be more senior. It could be the opposite way around. You could have someone more junior to you that but knows a different skill, and they could mentor you through a certain project or a certain situation. So I think it's a difference to a coach, I think. So a mentor is just somebody that can guide you and almost provide words of wisdom, if you will, and it's someone that you can just talk to and feel comfortable talking to. A coach is something different. That's like a specific work stream. So I think it's important to have mentors. The problem is people find it awkward to ask. So it's quite an awkward thing to say, oh, would you mind being my mentor? But I'm telling you, like 9 times out of 10, the people will be really actually humbled. And say, of course I will.
Yeah.
People are way more happy to help than people realise. I think I've done it in the past where you think, I can't ask that because they'll think less of me. I'm not capable. They think I need help. And it's not that at all. I see it as the opposite. If someone comes to me now and says, actually, would you help me? Would you mentor me mentor me to achieve X, Y, Z? It can't just be like mentor me in life. I can, but there's lots of different layers to that. But it could be like, I actually really want to be a senior leader, or I actually really want to move into this sector. Could you help me, or could you mentor me through that?
Yeah, I think you're right. More people would say yes more than anyone actually thinks, because who doesn't want to help someone? You're pretty cold-hearted if someone said no.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's enough. It's encouraged enough, unless the business sets it out as an actual thing.
I think it's an idea for businesses. I think it's a good idea. I know some certain organisations do this where you actually are given a mentor.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. So, you could join an organisation and you say, this is your mentor, your buddy, and this person's been here for this many years, and anything you have a problem with, go to that person. So that's encouraged, and that's great, but they don't have to work for the same business.
Yeah, it can just be someone who you know.
Don't even have to work in the same sector. Could be just be someone you aspire to be.
Yeah. While we're on that then, something that I think you're pretty good at is company culture. But before we go into culture, do you think that's a bit of a bullshit phrase? Because I don't like saying that, and I don't know what the alternative is. But
what is culture?
Yeah, I just think it's because it's been that much of a buzzword.
Exactly. What is it though? What is it? I prefer to use alignment. I think alignment is more important to me. Culture can mean lots of different things to lots of different people. And for me, you've got a good culture if everyone's aligned.
Yeah.
I think that's an easier way to define it. And it's okay if you're not. And I've used this analogy before, but you can have relationships with people throughout growing up. You can have lots of different relationships with a partner, or you could have one forever. It doesn't matter how many. It matters that you find the right one where you align. And alignment's so important. So it's no different really to a relationship than a business. There are certain things where I think culture could be subjective or objective. There are certain things objectively looking on paper that you can do to help with culture. So, it's important to pay people fairly. It's important to incentivize and reward and recognize and communicate really well. I think communication could be a really, really crucial part of culture if we are going to look at culture. And all that will be fixed if you're aligned anyway. So it's important to find people that you're aligned with when you're looking for a new role or looking for a new employee.
And
Should
what's
be
that?
number one.
And what's that like in your position, having been in roles where is the times where you think, I'm not aligned here, so I need to go? Because I think a lot of the time people are scared to leave, aren't they?
Yeah.
If they're not aligned.
Well, if anyone wants to look at my LinkedIn, they'll see the last couple of years that's happened with me, and there's nothing wrong with it, and there is absolutely no hard feelings with any of the organisations I've worked in. I still have lots of respect for every place that I've worked in my career to date, and I've learnt something from every single one. It sometimes can be looked at negatively if you see, as an employer, there are employers out there that will look at a CV and go, oh, this guy's been, or this girl, or whatever, this person has been around. They've moved, they've not held a job for 6 months or more. And there are certain things that are red flags.
Yeah.
If somebody's had a new job every 6 months for the last 10 years, there's definitely something to look at there. And equally, it's important to find out why. Because every person has a story.
Yeah.
And everyone has a reason. And again, going back to alignment, that person may just not have been aligned anywhere to date. And this might be the opportunity for them to be aligned.
And having been in that position then, what are the telltale signs that you're not aligned, and what should you do if you're not aligned, do you feel, if you're in a place where you're not feeling that?
That's a difficult one. I think you've got to give it a go first. You've got to at least try, and very importantly, you've got to give feedback. You've got to give feedback to the people that you work with. And this is what probation periods are for.
Yeah.
Probation periods are designed for this exact reason. You go through that probation, you work out what it's like to work there. Your employer decides if you're the right fit, and you as an employee decide if the organisation is the right fit for you. And you can have meetings throughout that probation period to decide whether that is the right fit. So again, probation periods are they've got this sort of stigma around them. It's like whether you're good enough or not.
Yeah. I think interview process is the same.
Yeah.
It's like there's so much stigma about, like it's on the employer to give the employer a job. But for me, it's like you should be interviewing the employer as much as they're asking you questions. I think the most disappointing thing when you're interviewing someone and you ask them if they've got any questions, say no. I'm like, what? You're about to work here. You're about to spend 80% of your life here. You've not got anything to ask.
Yeah, but I have been that person because annoyingly, the questions I've prepared have already been sort of covered in the interview. So I'm like, oh shit, I haven't got any questions.
You've answered them all.
And just like, there's always one though. I think you go in with you need to look interested in the business. So I think personally, a bit of advice is always ask about what the future looks like for the business and where do I fit in. And you want to feel, as an employer, you want to feel like that person is bought into what you're trying to achieve as well. And I think some of the traditional methods of interviewing needs to just be thrown in a bin, really, because it's just like, what do you know about the company? And I'm like, does that matter?
Yeah.
Anyone can go on the website a day before and do a big revision piece. That doesn't mean they're any good.
Yeah.
There'd be some people that disagree with me wholeheartedly on that, so fine. But that's just my opinion. I've just realised I've still not answered the very first question about my career.
Go on then. 40 minutes in.
We need to get to the end so we can move properly on. And so general manager, did some roles as asset manager. So again, throw myself into asset management. And then I then moved to Native. And so I was Allsop was my first build to rent role as general manager, was asset manager at Allsop. Then I moved to Native as head of operations. And then I've done a couple of roles recently that are more business development focused because some of my skills, I'm told, are social skills and relationship building and all of that. So I tried my hand at that, and I missed operations ultimately. So I'm back in ops now. Got the role that I suppose I've always wanted this role. And so I'm at Moda now as operations director. So I'm looking after the national build to rent portfolio for Moda, so I'm very excited to be in that position. I've finally answered your first question.
Yeah, thank you for that. But what? So, just on your most recent role, then, how early on in your career did you see that as a vision for your role, and what? Because what I'm trying to understand, like, what I think you speak about having vision pretty well, but I don't think loads of people have vision for their careers. They think vision's a bit of a bullshit phrase that companies use to see where they want to go, but I've never, you're really good at explaining what your vision is, like your own personal vision. So was that a vision early on, and why should people have that vision for their careers?
I think it's really important to have a mission statement, and that's
for yourself.
Yes, and I did that many years ago, and it was taken from one of the 1,000 different self-help books, podcasts, audio books that I've either listened to or read. So I can't even remember who it was now. I don't know. It was maybe Stephen Covey or Stephen Bartlett, or I can't remember. Anyway, so I learned about mission statements, and it taught me not to be too tangible. So having goals, really important. But when I used to set goals, I used to set them and they used to have a very clear time, date, tangible goal at the end of it. And I'd know if I'd achieved it or not. And that's fine for certain individual projects, I think.
Yeah.
But your lifetime is, hopefully long, and your working career is really long. So if you just constantly giving yourself tangible goals, I just don't feel like it works, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think if you can have goals that are more value driven, then it's a lot easier to succeed. And then creating a mission statement for me was an amazing exercise. I still have a journal, and it's in the back of that journal, and I look at it most days. And I don't forget it, but it just reminds me of what it is. I like reading it again. So I now just every career decision that I make, I always use that.
Is it aligned to that?
Yeah, I always align it to that. As long as it's aligned to that, it's fine. Because then I don't get too caught up on, it needs to be that role, and it needs to be that level, and it needs to be that much money. It doesn't matter, because the bigger goal here is to influence and impact. Influence as many organisations or people as I can do. So as long as I'm doing that, I'm fine.
Something we spoke about earlier, which can sometimes feel that it would complicate that, is challenge. So we spoke about before about how important it is to challenge, sort of challenge the processes or the status quo. I think you said, explain to me why that's so important to you, and why that's played such an important part of your integrity in your career.
I think organisations need to evolve constantly, especially now more than ever. With the changes in not just legislation, but then technology and AI all coming in, and things are going to change. The landscape's going to change quite dramatically, I think, in the next 2 to 5 years. Organisations need to change, and they can only change if people are challenging the norm. We can only change in society if we're challenging the norm. This is why, I'm not going to get into politics, but this is why we get ourselves in such a mess, because we don't move things forward. We have laws that are from 200 years ago. It doesn't feel right. So I'm very comfortable with challenging in the right way. There's one thing challenging, and there's another thing doing it correctly. So you don't want to become difficult or defiant. So a challenge is not necessarily, I'm not doing that because I don't agree with it. A challenge is, why do we do it like that? Shall we just explore if that is still the right way to do it? It might be, but unless you ask the question, people will just stick to the norm.
And have you found that to be problematic in your own career, being that way?
Yes and no. Yes, but no, because if we go back to the alignment question, well, if they're not happy to be challenged, then they're not aligned with me. And you've got to be, and that's where I feel comfortable where I am now, because the organisation I work for do want to be innovative, do want to challenge things and do things differently, and be bold. And they know that if they don't do that, then we'll just get caught up. We'll just become one of many.
Do you see that as a fundamental thing for businesses to progress then, to have that challenge constantly?
Yeah, I do. And I also think businesses need to encourage it. They need to make people, and this is a cliche about having a voice. that's nice, and I'm sure there's lots of organisations out there that will try and formalise it and try and do a survey and try and do a HR roadshow and try and encourage people to talk. And I think that's fine, and it does one part of the job. And I think there's other ways to do it as well. I think just including people, generally speaking, more, and having a more collaborative team approach and not so hierarchical or us and them, just including people in decisions often helps with that. 100%. And actually telling, and it comes from the top. So the leaders of the organisation need to encourage people to speak up and not shoot them down for it.
Yeah, I think so. As a business, we've always, it's like a couple of years ago, I think, try to introduce more feedback, and it's got to come from us, the leaders of the business, and we have got to do a really good job at accepting it or accepting the feedback well, because if they don't see that they can give us feedback, then we can't expect them to give each other feedback.
Yes, that's very important. That's a very, very important part of that.
Because I think everyone wants to say, yeah, we're a collaborative business, we encourage feedback. Then the first sign of someone giving the owner or the director feedback, and they get their head bitten off, and that's the end of the feedback.
And it's only natural.
Yeah.
Like I gave you some feedback the other day about something, and that can be quite personal. Because if you're the leader of a business and you are the founder and you're the owner,
Tell us what the feedback was.
You want me to?
Yeah.
It was about being, I can't remember, I don't know how the phrase, I don't know.
Do you want me to tell you?
Not being memorable, basically.
Yeah.
So whether that would be in a pitch,
yeah,
I don't even know if it was a pitch or just having that anyway wrapped around it, not being memorable enough.
Yeah.
I feel like that was
really
quite
important.
To take.
Oh, well, you might have dented the confidence a little bit, but it's so helpful, because if you'd not given me that feedback, we would have done the next pitch exactly the same. So now that you've given me, we'll change how we do a pitch, and we might lose the next one, but at least we'll be memorable. And I think that's why it's so important.
And that's so refreshing, because not every leader would do that.
But then I think, why wouldn't it? Because your feedback, it didn't hurt my feelings. I thought it was great, because it's information, it's learning. So why would you not want that? And for you to feel that you couldn't give him that'd be...
Yeah. It's annoying.
Yeah, madness.
Well, the extreme is that, I don't know if you've seen the Netflix documentary about the guy that did the submarine, and he was the CEO of that company. He was so he fixated on his idea and his vision. He was ignoring everyone, and he was just, instead of listening, he was just sacking them.
Yeah.
He was bringing other people in, and he ended up dying, and 5 others died on this submarine. It wasn't safe. It ultimately was not safe. That's an extreme situation, and there's lots more situations that aren't so extreme that happen day in, day out, whereby people in organisations are asked to give feedback, and they do, and then they get shot down for it, and it gets defended. And then next time they get asked to do that, guess what happens?
They won't do it.
Like, well, why? Yeah. I'm not going to do that, am I? It's like exit interviews.
Yeah.
If you're going to do them, make use of them.
Yeah. It's just good information, I think. Like, always ask for feedback, especially on things like exit interviews. Like, how can we... You can't improve if you don't listen to what people think of you. In any walk of life, like, it's so important.
Yeah.
And I think that businesses get that wrong, but it's also very hard to get it right.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you just turn on one day and say, that's working. It's constant. It takes a lot of commitment from an organisation to keep doing it, make everyone feel comfortable, create a safe space, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But only if you can continue to do it. Same with everything is, if you continue being consistent with it, you might see it improve.
Yeah. 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 And I think I just thought of something then when you're speaking about, we may have gone back a few pegs here, but I was thinking about organisations, and it's really important for everybody to understand why they're doing something. So, it's that Simon Sinek thing of why.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't know why, and you have no idea what the business's vision is or aspiration, then you kind of have no idea why you're doing certain things. And you'll get so much more from people if they understand why they're doing it.
Yeah, and I think going back to your first point, I think that gives people a purpose. And if you want people to work in alignment to a goal, then they have to know why. And they have to be on board with it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the how and the what might change, though what you do and how you do it might change. You might be pivoting in a new market, but that why needs to remain largely the same.
Yeah.
I'd say like that needs to stay as a constant.
Yes. People need to be reminded of it as well.
Yeah, and that's another big piece of work that you have to do to constantly like remind people and get them to buy into it.
Yeah.
But it should become a big thing. If we got some advice recently off Danny, who was on the last podcast, saying that should be such a big part of your interview, explaining that why, how, and what. Like, because if people aren't aligned, then you shouldn't be hiring.
Yeah.
And my answer to that was that that's very difficult in a competitive hiring environment, in a recruitment environment, especially in the markets that we're in. And his counter to that was, but you will find the better people if you do sort of go out on a limb and show that why.
Yeah, and I think that was, we talked earlier about interview processes and how that, well, I did, I guess, say that we're outdated. That's another, it's another perceived to be negative, like, strategy when you're doing interviews is, or methodology is kind of like, you as the interviewer shouldn't speak that much. You should ask questions but I don't agree with that, because that, going back to it being both sided here. So you're also selling the job to the candidate, and that needs to be done more. And the person that's interviewing should not go away thinking they've just been interrogated.
Yeah,
they should walk away buzzing with excitement, thinking, if I don't get that job, I'm going to be so gutted. Yeah, because that sounds amazing.
Yeah, and the interview should say the same thing, shouldn't they? Like, we need that person.
Yeah,
we need that person, because that'll make the business better.
Yeah, I'll never forget the first interview I had in property. I actually didn't get the first role that I applied for, and I won't say which company it was, but it's a very big PBSA provider, so you can work that one out. And they had a very, very old-fashioned, formal, in my opinion, interview process. I had to do I can't remember what those tests are called now, because I've not
Aptitude.
done one. It's the test where you have to literally do like a quiz that was like harder than something I've done at school. Test. Yeah, and I literally failed it. I was like, I can't do that.
School, isn't it, again? The same.
Yeah, I mean that's not going to. Does that mean I'm going to do a bad job? I can't do it. And I went to the in-person interview, and it was like being on X Factor or something. You just like the judges there, and you walk in and ask all these scripted questions, nothing back at all. Yeah, no personality, no vision from them about what the business was trying to do or how I could fit in. I just, like I say, felt like it was an interrogation. Put me off nearly. Yeah. Completely.
Well, it's probably good that you didn't get the role, because you wouldn't have been aligned, would you?
No, but then I went into the role at Vita. I went into the interview there, and it wasn't an interview. It was like, walked into a cinema room, sat on the sofa, informal chat. They told me everything about Vita. I was literally mesmerised, because I'd never known that student accommodation even existed. Such a better environment there.
Yeah, 100%. So we're just about to wrap up.
Oh, already?
Yeah, that's how quick our gone. But just for, we kind of try and ask the same question after every podcast. And that's, what would your advice be to people who need to or want to raise their floor? So I think the whole concept of the podcast is about consistency and what people can do to live a successful and fulfilled life. What would your advice to those people be?
I think I've probably got two, as I can't decide.
Two's fine.
I think ultimately you've got to keep your line manager happy. I think it sounds so simple, but keep your boss happy.
Yeah.
Like, that is such a simple thing. Yeah. Simple
honestly,
bit of advice.
I think everyone thinks there's this grand thing like have a mission statement, but keeping your line manager happy is a great piece of advice.
Happy, yeah. So keep your boss happy, and at the same time, I would encourage people to be their authentic self. Like, we are in a period now in life where it's celebrated more than ever. Be bold, be different, and celebrate. That is your USP. And I'm saying that because I haven't done it. I've tried to blend in with everybody else. Yes, it's not done too bad for me, but I'd like to be able to go back and do it differently and see if I would have got different results. I could have been more successful, maybe. I don't know. But I know from my position now, looking at people that I want to work with, people that come into this sector and other sectors, I just want good energy. I don't forget about what they look like, how they look, how they present themselves is important, but it's very subjective. So we're not going to discriminate based on how somebody looks at all. It's more about the energy. So, but be different. So if you are different, own it. If you got different color hair or you got tattoos or what, just own it. Go for it. That is your USP. You will stand out by doing that. Why would you want to blend in?
Brilliant. Appreciate you coming on and your time.
No, likewise. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed that. Better get back to work now.
Cheers.
Thank you.